Hi, I'm Emma, and Satch and I are the founders of The Source, which is all about seeing someone's secret sauce. It's about seeing what makes you attracted to them in real life, their X factor, the specialness, the things that we think it's quite difficult to get across on existing dating apps. So we're fairly new, we're based out of London, and we'd love to tell you a little bit about the stats that have informed our journey so far, the interviews we've had, and a bit about the product. So I'll let Satch carry on.
So we're just going to start off with a few statistics from kind of the online dating industry across a few studies. You may have seen these before, but we think they're quite important and they really do frame kind of why we decided to build what we did and kind of why we got into the dating industry in the first place. Now, the stats on the screen are basically the response rates certain people get to themselves when they send out a like on a dating app, how often that person kind of takes that conversation to a match. So, responds to them, likes the way they look, and then takes it to a conversation. So on the left, you have 2.9%, and that is the responsiveness Black men get to their outgoing likes. So 2.9% of their likes lead to a conversation. And below that, you can see that 7.1% is the responsiveness white men get on dating apps. So, more than double the response rates just based on a study where it was largely done with a pool of Black men and a pool of white men. On the right, we have 11.5%, which is the lowest female response rate, and that is really dominated by Black women. So Black women send out 100 likes, they'll tend to get around 11.5 matches from that. And on the bottom right, you can see 26.5% is the responsiveness Asian women get, which is the highest among females. So when they send out 100 likes, they get around 26 matches from that. Now, that ties in kind of quite well to my experience. I joined dating apps in 2013, and they didn't really work for me at all. I think this study came out a little bit later, but I really wasn't at all surprised to see this study and the statistics behind it, which is why I kind of feel quite strongly about this subject in the first place. Now we also have kind of a male to female interactions kind of statistics. And the graph on the right, on the left, you can see a lot of pink, and a lot of pink kind of basically means men are generally less picky on dating apps. So, they send out more likes with more profiles, and they kind of, some men probably just like all profiles. It's happened before. I think there were a few videos that went out showing people with quite interesting tools to just send out as many likes as possible. But what's really interesting is when females send out likes to men, usually it's around 10% of men that dominate the entire online dating industry. So, they make up 90% of matches, chats, and interactions across most of the platforms. And that also means 60% of the bottom, group of men basically share 1% of interactions. Now, if you can imagine, the average man is probably around 50%. He probably sits in that pool, a great person, probably has a great job, great personality, interests, and, might do really well in real life, but that person will pretty much get no interactions on these dating apps just because, you're judged based on a photo.
Yeah, and it is really important. I think when we go and we speak to investors outside the dating space and we speak to other people in the tech world, we're always really surprised that people don't treat online dating as a real social cause. It is really important. And this is why it's so important. So in 2018, 42% of people had an online dating profile. And now 82% of people have an online dating profile. These are of single people, people who are actively dating. Why isn't that 18% on there? I think online dating has become so much more acceptable in society. What is it that's stopping them do it? Is it what Satch has just talked about, that 18% get no traction whatsoever, and actually that they're just not going to go on there? This is so important for people's mental health. Mr. Average, who goes to the bar, probably pulls a great woman, in real life, online is getting nothing. Can you imagine what that does for your self-esteem? what it does for loneliness. You know, loneliness is a real issue in society. It affects, you know, your health generally, whether or not you go to hospital, it affects your well-being at work, everything else. It's a real societal issue. In 2018, less than 40% of relationships were formed online. Now, the structural change in dating, and I say structural because it is not just a pandemic flash, this is what we believe to be a permanent shift in society, means that now over 70% of relationships are formed online. You know, the change in the workplace isn't just, for example, that you might not see someone as regularly in real life as perhaps you would have done pre-pandemic. There's also just changes of behavior about whether or not it's acceptable to approach someone in the workplace. You know, since the Me Too movement, which obviously I completely love and I think is amazing, but it has slightly changed the dynamic between men and women and what they're willing to risk in perhaps they're speaking to people, approaching people, everything else. And I don't think that should change, of course, but that is a structural change that's happened, particularly amongst Generation Z. They just do not go up to each other in a bar, start flirting with each other and ask each other out. You know, that era has really moved on. So online is where it's at, it's where it's originating, and we need to make sure that it works for everyone. And it's really important. Satch, thanks very much. So that's how we came up with the app. So Satch has talked a bit about his frustrating online dating experiences. Mine were slightly different. Mine was meeting up with someone and then very rarely being the person that I was hoping they were going to be from their dating profile. You know, a photograph and a few messages, you know, I've never been really one for texting myself, doesn't really give you much of an indication of what someone's going to be like. So it's sort of wasted time, wasted energy, wasted headspace. Dating is expensive, you know, if you want to pay half the bill, it's a difficult thing to do. So these things are really important and we want to make sure that it's working a lot better. So a little bit about our backgrounds. Now, Satch is a full stack developer, technical background, very creative brain. My background is I'm the sort of corporate square in our team, very corporate background, originally trained in law, then moved into asset management. But we both had a yearning to start our own business, and we both came to the same business together before this, which was called GoodFit. It was a marketplace for booking personal trainers, and it relied on city workers being at their desks 5 days a week, really strapped for time, desperate for some help to work out, and lots of disposable income. Satch left his job a little bit before me. My last day in asset management was the 28th of February, 2020. Now, for those of you that can remember what happened in 2020, the timing was spectacular. All the gyms closed with COVID on the 14th of March. So we had 2 glorious weeks before our business and our revenue stream completely dried up. So we were thinking about all of the different things we could do. And I'll tell you, there is nothing that will encourage action like no income, no furlough, and no COVID relief for 2 people. So we locked ourselves away and we went through every single problem that we faced. And the dating problem that we both faced in different ways is the one that we settled on. Satch first came up with this idea when he was on TikTok and he saw just how much personality was in TikTok profiles. I was initially a bit more reticent. I wasn't convinced that people would use video. I'm a little bit older, but actually was really quickly convinced that this was the right thing to do. Satch, would you move on to perfect? So when we first set up this business, we divided and conquered. So as I said, Satch is a full stack developer, and he built the entire MVP first version of the app between May and the end of August 2020. It was in the App Store just at the end of August. And I went around speaking to thousands of Gen Z and millennials, got some branded t-shirts made. You can see right here, I brought one of my friends along with me one day. And I went and I spoke to these people about everything they loved and hated about dating, what was important to them, what wasn't important to them. And we came up with our first version product. And actually, that's how we signed up our first 1,000 users to the app. We had some flyers. I think they're about £7 for 1,000. And that's how we got those people on board. And as you can see, in England, it still rains quite a lot. But it was a great time for us, I should say, because all these Gen Z and millennials were outside. It was that really long, hot summer, generally. And they were all just sat around. They wanted to chat to me. They were really bored. They were all in their groups and there was no inside interactions whatsoever. So there was no barrier to me getting to those people and speaking to those people.
So that what led to the first version of the app, as Emma mentioned. Now, the focal point of that app was videos. So people had profiles, you could put up to 5 videos, and you could kind of swipe through those videos. It was quite a simple version and perhaps not progressive enough. And, when we interviewed thousands and thousands of people and, we continued talking through to them, when the product was out, we did like live interviews of them using it. And there were a few patterns which started to form. The first one was the association of swiping and the word swiping. The word swiping and people having to swipe was commonly associated to being tiring, boring, a lot of fatigue associated with it. A lot of Gen Zs just don't like having to swipe. It's like micro rejection for them, which they feel is just not part of who they are. And we also then found that the younger people were much more comfortable with video. So, the early 20-year-olds would, be thrilled with the idea of a video-based dating app. They wouldn't think twice about it. They would get their TikToks on it. They would really have lots of video and get the concept really, really quickly. Where people in their late 20s were a little bit more hesitant. They didn't get the idea at first, but once they did, and they started to look through their library of videos, they realized, actually, I do have a lot of videos, and this could potentially be a better app because I can see a lot more personality. And the final point that kept coming up in conversations was that chats on dating apps weren't natural. There was a lot of forceful chatting. You had to be wittier than you were in real life. You had to think about your response almost too much. There were also time delays in chats. And really, this feedback led us to kind of take down that first version of the app and really build a new one that was more in line with what this audience wanted. So over the next 5 months, we built a new app. And while we were building a new app, we also started to build our team. And one of the key hires in the team was Archie, our first hire, who was our community manager. And he talked to everyone in that demographic and still talks to everyone. He's still part of the team. He's still a crucial member. And we entirely run on feedback. So along with the product feedback, we also kind of asked them other things. Emma really questioned whether they were making decisions based on what they want or what they like or what the rest of society was doing. And we found that values drove decisions more so than any other generation we've spoken to. Their career decisions, the brands they would interact with, the people they would interact with, and the influences they would really look up to were all based on values. Do they align with the values that I intrinsically have? And these could be kind of environmental issues. But one of the big issues that associated to dating was that race, gender, and LGBTQ equality was at the forefront of their minds. And they really wanted to contribute to the equality of these people and everybody. And we felt it was our obligation to make sure our app and our brand was built in line with these values. So this led us to our next version. We launched this in May this year with around 300 users. And in the middle, you can see the focal point of the app, the discovery, the source of the app was all in this screen. And it was a very TikTok type feed where you can scroll through profiles, you can scroll through videos, and you can see pieces of personality in videos. You could also kind of move into profiles and see a lot more of the other person's videos. And you could send a like or a reaction or a comment. And this led to much more value-based interactions, a lot more to talk about because your videos would give you more to talk about. And on the left there, you can see kind of how your feed would look when you upload a new video. So people would send you interactions, comments, maybe even just likes. And it kind of resembles what we saw in social media. So from a lot of the feedback we got, people tended to say, actually, Instagram works a little bit quite well for dating. And in TikTok's early days, they had a little bit of dating going on as well. So a very low stakes approach to interactions, which kept conversations more natural. But we were still a dating app. So on the screen on the right, you could see is a conversation. So if you did like the look of someone's profile, you could invite them to chat. And this really brought us to our end goal, which is to get people going on better dates and experiences in real life. You know, as much as we love the interactions online, we still feel like best interactions and experiences are had in real life. And that's where the chat comes in. You know, we do want people to chat and actually meet up in real life. And that's why we've actually branded ourselves as a dating app in itself.
Yeah, no, this is probably where I get a bit overexcited. So this is what we've done so far. This is the achievements that we have so far. So starting from my still exciting, but not the most exciting stat, 48% of outgoing likes also have a message on them. Now that is because we are finding that people are so engaged by video. When you see a video of someone, you're really hooked into them. You know, you feel like you really know this person, and your desire to speak to them is so much higher. You know, if you really genuinely like someone and you feel like you've seen who they really are, their secret sauce, you're desperate for that person to reply to you. And we're finding that people are being really intentional and creative with their messages, and they're actually really putting a lot of effort in. So that's the first thing. Half of outgoing likes include a message, which is great. Second thing is 95% of first dates are leading to second dates. Now, we are not asking people in-app to give us in-app feedback on their dates at the moment. We're trying to keep the product as light and as easy to use as possible. We're trying to make sure that the user experience is as slick as possible. So this information is gathered through our community manager, speaking to our community and asking people, you know, have you been on a date? How did it go? Et cetera, et cetera. And what we found is that 95% of the people that have told us that they've been on a date went on a second date with that person. It's, you know, we talk about it as if you've already met someone in real life. And that is exactly what this is. So you've seen a video of someone, they've seen a video of you, you both know what you're going to get. There's no surprise on the date. No bad surprise, certainly, anyway, on the date. And it's going really well, which is just fantastic to us. You know, this is really working. And then this is where I sort of take off in my excitement entirely. Sach opened this presentation by talking about the racial biases that are, you know, on dating apps. And it is a real sad truth of the situation. And we are finding that the source is working so much better for people of color than photo alone based apps. And we are just absolutely chuffed with this statistic. So a person of color is 11 times more likely to get a match from an outgoing like with the source than they are with other photo-based apps. This is done using freedom of information requests with other apps to see outgoing likes to match ratio. And then it is done looking at the information on the source as well. So that is just fantastic to us. We're so pleased. You know, and if that's something that we can be really happy to be doing with our lives and knowing that we're making a real difference in this space. So it's down to video, it's down to the analytics that we're using, and it's down to our algorithm. And we are so chuffed about that. I'll let Sach finish.
Yeah, so, you know, that is really kind of all we've got for today. And, you know, as Emma said, the stats, the early data is really driving us forward. We hope that we can really change a lot of the landscape, a lot of how people interact online, and kind of make it work for everyone. And, you know, we're still quite in an early stage of our company. We've only been running for 2 years, so a long way to go. And we really, really think that we'll be making a difference and get people going on really, really great experiences. So if anybody has any questions at all, who would like to have a chat with us, you know, we can show a bit more about how we achieved some of these results, where we got the results from, and how we get our feedback. Please do reach out to myself or Emma. We're available on LinkedIn, via email, and we can even drop some replies in this chat if anybody would like to meet up. So thank you so much for your time.